Yeah, what's up, guys? At VIR this week. Really like this track. Have a good deal of experience at it because of some Targa events and stuff like that. It's a fun track. Goes along with those tracks. They're kind of like an actual road terrain tracks, which is something I always enjoy. I have my setup from last week at Zandvoort. I'm running the Daytona version of the two sets I made last week. So it's the Daytona, Zandvoort setup. Well, actually, it's every other track I've been to this week setup. Oop. Car got a little unsettled the way I went over that curb. So yeah, run a lot of laps here. And in all the times I've run laps here, I probably hit that wall about... I don't know, I can only remember one other time I've hit that wall, but I probably hit that wall a dozen times. So, like all my other videos, just gonna put some laps in. See what kind of... Jeez, I am not one with the car right now. I'm gonna definitely have to take a very slow approach to this. But yeah, just gonna run the laps and try and figure out what kind of car I got right now. I think I'm just not paying attention right now. Get my focus hat on. A little bit better over that. Down to 5th. Oh, fun section. All the way through here. And this is where it gets tricky because you really gotta optimize your speed here. Swing all the way out, but I mean, you barely touch any of that grass on the outside, it's game over. So it's a pretty tricky corner. And we'll just go all the way up over the hill and keep going straight. There we go, completed a lap. It's gonna be second gear for that corner every time. Second gear for this corner as well. Usually do a little upshift right there when I'm like half throttle. It's kind of hard to be full throttle in that section anyways. Then by upshifting a little early, it, helps for spinning those rear tires like you would if you're in second gear. Alright, so GT3 Ford doesn't exactly handle that curb like the GT2 Ford does. So I got most experience on this track is the GT2 Ford. Feels like if I get a little bit going up those S's I'm talking about, if I get a little bit too much of that right hand curb, if I go over on the back side of it, it kind of hooks the right front tire, hooks it and kind of gets the car all off balance. want to be nice and gradual with the throttle in that corner. This is another one of those corners you gotta be careful because... Actually, no, I'm gonna do third gear for that corner. Because if you just barely go out in the grass on that back that left-hander I'm talking about, you're in those tires. It's another one of those pretty tricky corners. Let's see if we can get through this section a little bit smoother this time. So he just hooks that. Never had a car do that before, going on that far over that curb. Usually they just fly right over it. This one's got a little hook to it. Of course, this is the first time I've ever driven the GT3 version of the Ford here. Nice comfortable braking spot for that corners in between the one board and the arrow. Into fourth real quick, back down to third, kind of just trail braking to help steer the front, get that apex. Up here I pretty much like to brake on the downhill. Pretty much right at the four board. Sneak it in a little after if you're really feeling good. Again, just roll the throttle on there. The fourth, back down to third, just trail braking, apex. Down to second. If I should go to 6 through the S's somewhere. Second, really just slow it down there at the end, try and get a late apex. Very tricky corner. So again up here, braking in between the one board and the arrow. Probably get away with being a little bit close to the arrow. This corner I really just like to hug that curb. Don't get on the curb, just hug it. That corner, get close to the curb, don't get on it. This one, whoa, 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 whoa. First match at revs. That's what happens here, man. You go off and you're just sliding for days. That's a bummer. I didn't really get a lot of laps in there. I think I am gonna just mess with the ride height a little bit because the front end does, I mean, I'm bottoming out quite a bit here. So when I do this, because I'm gonna raise the front and rear together just to try and keep the dynamics of the car similar. So 56.4, or 78.1, so that's a difference of 21.7. Alright, so I want a difference of 21.7 just to keep the rake the same when all's said and done. I'm gonna raise this up to, let's go to 58. It'll go, watch, it'll go up more now. Once I raise the rear. So that is 78.7. That's what this should be if it's 21 off. So we'll go a little bit more. And now that is 79.4. 79.4. So that's, yep, that's pretty much exactly the same difference in height we had before. Now let's see if that was enough to stop the front end from bottoming out. You still want that front end to bottom out, because when that happens, it's actually taking weight off the front tires, so you lose grip on the front. Because now the weight that was on those front tires, some of it's being transferred to the splitter, because the splitter is actually acting like a leg or something like that. It's just supporting the actual weight of the car off the ground, which is not a function of the splitter. If you can change that, you should. But at the same time, you want the car to be as close to the ground as you possibly can without that splitter hitting for good aerodynamics in the front. So you just got to find that balance. So I think we'll be on to 6th gear. That last little part of that section. Up here, so I brake at that 2 board back there. Do a little brake and let off the brake a little bit, then continue to trail brake for that corner. Just one of those things that's going to take a lot of time and practice on your guys' part. I mean, honestly, I think I've done 2 or 3 Targa events here, and that's the longer version. That's where you take a right here, do the infield, which I actually prefer that course. So you can hear there was a little bottoming out right there, but very slight. It's more the bottoming out when I'm braking into corners is what the one I don't want to live with. I can live with that just very quick scraping of the splitter under braking and just a couple spots around the track. But yeah, I don't even know, man. I want to say I've done somewhere between 500 and 1,000 laps on this track. So I put the time in to figure out all the nuances and how to drive it. So when you first get here, it's a pretty tricky track. But once you put the time in, it's a fun and rewarding track. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm actually going to shift to 6 right now. So my car's actually handling that curb a little bit better, or I just haven't hit it the same way I was before. 1, 2, and back down. Just got a little bit of that tire. Right now I'm in just full-blown don't hit the tire wall management mode. Ooh, that was close. I mean, as soon as you get in trouble on any part of that track, you really shouldn't be thinking about saving it in the sense of let's just keep it on the track. You should be thinking about, I don't care how far away you are from those tires, it's always a good idea to think about not, braking a little bit more than you would, thinking, oh, okay, I got it. It's like, no, you always want to brake as much as you can as soon as you can when you know you're starting to go to those tires, because more often than not, you're not going to have enough room to stop. And usually the only thing that really saves you is being overly cautious and just really making sure you don't hit those tires once things go wrong. Yeah, let's see if we can get some good laps in here. I think I did solve the ride height problem though. 51.9. Let's see how it goes this lap. I'm actually paying attention. So no scrape there. I believe it was scraping there before. Nice, rolling the throttle. And trail braking through here. Took too much speed through the corner because I was kind of afraid of braking. It's one of those things you really want to get your car handling nicely for the trail braking, so you can have the confidence to just get on those brakes a little bit harder and the rear end won't snap around on you. So I was kind of afraid of back there if I got on the brakes a little bit harder if the rear end would snap around, but I really shouldn't worry about that too much yet, because I really haven't optimized my line and all that stuff. So it could be something I'm doing wrong. Can almost break up the arrow. Pretty good rotation through there. They're in. If I had to say this car is leaning one way or the other, it's a little bit loose. I think I could be a little bit smoother with my inputs at the same time. And I really haven't been putting good laps in, so really too early to make any kind of those adjustment changes. And all about patience through that corner. And see if we can get through this one a little bit better. Got a little bit more aggressive on the braking, nothing to worry about. Car didn't do anything crazy as long as I'm smooth the application of the brakes. Oh, broke a little late there. I'm just playing catch up with the rear end. Try and go over this curb a little extra. Yep, she still pulls. I was just going to see if it still pulled me to the right, and it still does. So right now I'm just going to try and focus on seeing if I can just ride the middle of that curb and still have a good line instead of going all the way over to the right side of it. Pretty close to that arrow. Yeah, rear end's a little too loose. Yeah, so as long as you go over the middle of that curve, you're alright. Down to second gear on my little autopilot there. Still don't know if second or third's better. I want to say third's better, but don't know. It's always nice to get a good exit off that corner, but unless the dude in front of you makes a mistake, you rarely have enough time to make the pass through here. So I'm braking that, let off the brake here, and then I get back on the brake. It's kind of, just watch my inputs on the bottom right of the screen. Give you a good idea what I'm doing there, because it's just not, it's not just I get on the brakes, I stay on the brakes. I kind of play with them. Let the car roll for a little bit, and then get back on the brakes. Back through here, just really try and hug that curb. That was a little too far out. Here we go, as far as you can on the left there, so you give yourself a good angle for this exit out of this corner. This is an important corner to get a good run on, because you do have enough time to make the pass going into one. Probably the best passing opportunity on the track other than the back stretch.
47.52.
Yeah, drifting. That was kind of what I was worried about earlier. I was getting on, and I was worried about getting too much brake up front. Not quite sure what I want to do this setup yet. I got a couple different ideas going on in my head. Sorry, I got a pretty sweet setup where I scotch taped the back of my monitors together to keep the wiggling down to a minimum. I seem to need a new piece of scotch tape because this thing's just it's popping back and forth and it's driving me nuts while I'm driving. It's distracting me. Give me 1 second. Hopefully nothing a fresh piece of scotch tape can't fix. Alright, here we go. Yeah, I still got a little pop. Alright, sorry. Little things like that'll drive me nuts. So, garage. Rear end loose. Man, there's not a whole lot pressure in those tires, but wasn't a lot of laps on that run either. So, dang, there's already a lot of that going on. What else could I do? First thing I was going to do is a low speed rebound dampening, but there's already so much. I mean, it's maxed out pretty much. I can only go up 2 more clicks. So, yeah, yep, I can lower the rear springs. Because basically once these get maxed out, you kind of want to just start adjusting the actual springs themselves. Because you're reaching the limits of what the rebound can do. And then once you reach that limit, because what the low speed rebound dampening does is it slows down the expansion of the shock after compression, right? So the more dampening you put in it, the more it's going to slow down that expansion of the spring. But you max it out, then you get to that, you plateau, the spring's always going to release from compression at this rate. Well, the next step once you max that out is to bring the spring rates down, and then you can kind of, now you're at a whole new level. So that's what we'll do, because now with lower spring rates, the springs don't have so much force in them when they're compressed, so they're not going to want to expand from compression as quick. So we're still doing the same thing. We're slowing down that compression, but now we're kind of slowing down the both sides of it because it's a double-edged sword. You got the compression and the expansion, so it's also going to slow down the compression as well. Actually, that's not true. It'll speed up compression because it's a softer spring. So, you know, it's easier to compress a softer spring than it is a harder spring. If it's easier to compress, it's going to do it faster. See how that did for the rear end there. Hopefully it snugged it up nicely. And basically what I'm, by slowing down the rate at which the springs release from compression, I'm basically just trying to slow down the whole rear end of the car, the body roll, as we're going into corners and stuff, so it slows down the weight transfer from the inside to outside tire. And makes the rear end a little bit more stable, makes it so the car can kind of keep up with it. Seems like it was a little bit too fast and is overworking the rear end, causing it to get loose. One thing I didn't really check though is how much the ride height dropped when I made that adjustment. Alright, so it already feels a little bit more snug through there, but again, first lap, like I say in all my other videos, can't get too excited about the first lap because you got brand new tires. And that's always going to feel better. And a little bit of scraping. Excuse me. Going to that corner, but tires are also at low pressure, so we'll see if that scraping goes away. Went down to second gear. Might do that every time. Third gear might not give me enough rotation. A little pogo-y over that curb. And again, I wanted to test the waters and it's still pulling the car over, so eventually I might try and do some high-speed dampener changes, see if I can get that car to stop hooking over that curb. I think I might do is just slow down the rebound, high-speed rebound. That might help me out. Right now, I just need to focus on what I got. It'll loose coming off that corner. My major dilemma is that corner right there, because that corner right there, the car's never been too loose for. And it's always a corner that at least the GT2 Ford would get pretty tight in, so I don't want to tighten the car up too much because then I'll make that car not very enjoyable to drive, and you kind of want to at least be able to get through that corner without lifting too much, so you can get that good run for the first corner. Carried a little too much speed into that corner. still feels pretty good. Last two sectors are nice and solid. Let's see if the front splitter scrapes this time. We got a little bit more pressure in our tires now. Yeah, just a little bit. That's alright. I mean, I got on the brakes as hard as I could. That's all it's going to scrape. That's not going to hurt us. Like I was saying before, it's more important you're not scraping as you're going into corners. Ah, yeah. Rear end feels much better. Oh, it did a little mini drift. Like I could feel the rear tires starting to spool up, and it kind of did like a perfect little mini power slide out of that corner. Felt good, but I don't think it's something I'll be able to do every lap. Just kind of being stupid there. Instead of just backing off and regaining composure of the car, I was kind of trying to power slide through it. See, like right there, the front end washed out a little bit. It's a problem with that corner. You got to let that front end dip, grab, and then get on the gas. If you get on the throttle too soon, it'll wash out on you. Like there, I was completely offline. You can see how it'll mess you up through the rest of the corner.
48.55.
Yeah, and the car did a little bit of that mini power slide drift through that corner. Pretty much rotating the car with full throttle. Such a fine balance that corner. It's carried a little bit too much speed into that second part. too much speed into that corner. Rear end still feels good through there. Yeesh. I just could never driven a car like that with my old wheel. I know I say that like every video, but still stuff like that kind of amazes me. Thinking I think it's time to make an adjustment to the differential. So I definitely like the spring change we made. Did snug up the rear end. All right. Actually, I'm gonna experiment with this. Because what's happening right now that I don't like is, so we're going down the front straight. I'm up over here. We're going down the front stretch, and we go through one. Then when I'm braking for this left-hander, it just feels like the nose is going down too far. And, kind of jacking the rear end up, and it just feels like too much of a motion, and it feels like it's unsettling the front, or the rear of the car, because the front dips too much. So I'm going to increase 4 clicks of low-speed compression dampening. Low-speed compression dampening handles, it regulates the speed of the compression, the velocity of the compression of the springs. So the more dampening you have it in, the more it's going to slow down the rate at which the front springs compress. So when I'm going into that corner, I'm trying to just slow the front end from dropping so quickly and putting so much weight to the front so quick and making the rear tires so light that they spin loose. So I'm trying to just slow down that whole motion. Dampening, those dampening changes affect both the forward and rear weight transfer of the car and then the side-to-side weight transfer of the car. So not only will it slow down the front nose from dropping, but it's also, like when we go into this right-hander here, it's going to slow down the rate at which the weight transfers from side to side as well. So I'm just hoping it kind of slightly gives the front end a little bit stiffer feel. Not so squishy. A little bit more firm. I'm also interested to see how it affects the handling of the car as I go over the bump through uphill S's. It's kind of been hooking my car the whole time. I'm almost hoping by slowing down the compression, it's gonna kind of almost catapult the car over the curb so the tire doesn't drop down on the back side of it and hook it. Hoping it almost just kind of jumps the whole tire over the curb. Like that's what I think happens with with the GT3 Ford I drive here. It's a frustrating corner, not gonna lie. Hard corner to get right. Yeah, see, it did it anyways. Did that little dip in the rear end, stepped out. But I got something else I can do. Right now I'm just going to see if it helped at all. Let's see what it does here. It seemed a little bit better going over there. Still hooked a little bit, but it wasn't quite as bad. Yeah, watch how I went through that corner that time. Much better. You'll see I have to wait to get on the gas, let the car rotate, and then I can get on the gas. If I could do that every time, that'd be awesome. Alright, so it is better through there. I just think I was being uber aggressive the time before. Again, I'm really going to try and tack this, see what it does. It does feel better. I was kind of fighting it. I wanted to see if she'd keep turning, but she didn't. And you just really gotta wait, then hope your car turns. Gotta wait and then pray.
47.
Especially when you're right behind somebody. Get that arrow push going. The fun section, because you really drive the car, especially when the car is kind of neutral like this one is. Really driving the car with your throttle.
7.66.
Just really going for it in there. Other thing I'm gonna do is crank up this low speed rebound. Still, we're basically doing the same thing, just on the other end that we were doing with the compression dampening. We're just kind of slowing down this front end. So again, the rebound controls the rate at which the springs release from compression. So it's not so much the actually, it has nothing to do with when I get on the brakes, because the springs are not releasing compression. What it has to do with when I'm getting on the brakes and then I start to turn into the corner, let's say this is the inside, as I'm turning into the corner, this is going to want to lift up, so this is going to slow down the rate at which that lifts up. And getting back on the gas, it's going to slow down the weight transfer from the front to rear. So I'm really just hoping it, the main part I'm focusing in on is, as I'm like right this point, like right there in the corner, that's where I'm really trying to change the characteristics of the car. I'm just trying to get it so this, like right there, you know, in the beginning of that part of the corner, that left front doesn't raise up as quickly. Again, just trying to slow down the weight transfer. And on the other end, so on the left side, the rebound dampening is working with the compression dampening on the right side. As we go on that left-hander, the left side's going to raise up and the right side's going to go down, right? Well, when the left side goes up, the compression or rebound dampening will take effect, and on the right side, when the spring's going down, the compression is going to take effect. So they're both, one's pushing, one's pulling, but they're both working together to slow down the motion of the front end. To make it a little bit more stable. So, we'll see if that did anything. Car wasn't doing quite the, actually it didn't do it at all. The rear tires were hooked up. Wasn't doing any of that throttle steer. Of course, it's the first lap, so we'll see. See how that progresses. That's not too surprising because that's kind of a byproduct of the adjustments I made to the front. Because now I slowed down the rate at which the springs release from compression, so it's going to slow down the weight transfer to the rear, causing a little bit more understeer when we get back on the gas. So that is to be expected. So, that corner. And it's funny too, because it doesn't matter what car I drive, that's usually about the only corner I'm tuning for on this track. That corner and the last corner. Everything else usually just falls into place, but those two corners usually have to work on to get the car to be a little bit more compliant through it. I do feel the car is more stable right now. It's probably not as stable as it needs to be. So at this point, I'm actually braking at that arrow now for that corner. That was really nice through there. Nice and smooth.
53.99.
Purple too in that sector. Car hooks up nice out of that corner. Ooh. I just don't know if I should do it. Man, that went way too fast in that corner. I just don't know if I should do 2 downshifts or go second or stay in third. Or I think second's a little bit quicker, but you always run that risk of not hitting your throttle bit properly, and the car's already so on edge that just that little mistake. I think that's something I'm gonna go back and forth with here, and eventually probably end up doing second gear all the time. Just get more used to what the car does, or just get better at making sure I really hit my blips for that downshift. The car feels great everywhere else. I think I just need to work on my line through 2 a little bit more. Stop driving like a muppet. God, I'm starting to make myself angry. God, it's just so not fun to drive through that corner right now. I guarantee if this car had the built-in throttle blip, wouldn't be having any trouble going through there right now. Can't seem to match my revs right. Starting to get the feeling this is going to be another two-part video. Now, one more thing I can do. I'll do in this video before I call it. So I'm getting right around that hour limit. I know, I always like to spend like around an hour tuning a car, and then part of you will kind of get burnt out, so I like to just take a break and then come back and regroup and take a nice fresh start at it. Find that's usually more efficient than trying to just keep fighting through your frustrations. Yeah, I'm kinda running out of my effectiveness here. Okay. I mean, that helped, but still didn't do what I'm looking for. Now the tires are... Gonna bump up different tire pressures. They've been a little bit on the low side the whole time, but I was kind of hoping more laps I put on them, I was hoping it would come up to more 181, but it seems like they're staying pretty even here at 177, 175. If I'm not mistaken, that's about what they were last time. So we'll go up 6 over here and 1 over here. Now in the rear, I'm gonna leave those alone. Actually, let's just do something out of curiosity. Oh, no. Tabbed. I'll tab fail. Meant to get out of the car. I just want to look at the ride heights right now. Remember, it was off by like 21.7, so that's 79.80.5. 21.7, right? 79. So the difference has actually gone down by almost 2 millimeters from front to rear, because this should be at like 80.5. But that's really, I'm not too upset about that because we want more stability out of the front end anyways. And you get more stability out of the car, not the front end, just the car in general, by putting that rear end a little bit lower to help snug up the rear end. But the tire pressure adjustment I made, just kind of hoping it puts a little bit more spring in those front tires, doesn't make them quite as mushy. It's more of a kind of looking for a pretty minute change. Just keep going with that. It's almost like putting stiffer springs in the front, but at a very minute level. Because you just stiffened up that front end just a little bit. You just took a little bit of spring out of those front tires, so I'm hoping that helps them. Thinking they're a little too mushy. I'm hoping that just helps them bite a little bit more. Not roll over. That's kind of the feeling I was getting when the rear end kept getting loose. It just keeps feeling like the front end's diving too much. Ooh, slow down. Kind of just felt like the front end's rolling a little too much at that last little point. So, see how these do. One thing I just thought about that's super obvious to change for that part of the corner, but I haven't done yet, and that's my brake bias. Mess with that in a little bit, see how this does first. Still got that hook. I was trying to carry too much speed. I don't want to get that. It's got to be patient. We overdrive this track, that's when you start getting in trouble. Like every track. Especially this one. New best lap, but it was my first lap. 47.1. You know what I think about that. I was pushing it pretty hard through there. Seeing if she'd stay underneath me. So you're going to put a good lap in here.
53.53.
That was much nicer through there. You know, I drove through the corner like I was supposed to. Wasn't overdriving the car, and it felt much more comfortable than it had before when I would not really try and overdrive it, but it would still do that wicked snap loose thing on me. So I do like the front tire pressure change. This car does feel great everywhere else. Slow her down a little bit more this time. Kind of sliding all the way around that corner. There we go. Good lap. Got into the 46-second bracket. Carried a little bit more speed in that corner. Last lap. Definitely got the car behaving better through that previous corner, but biggest trick's still going to be to match your... I was trying to play at the throttle, get it to turn there. Biggest trick you're going to have there is making sure you match your throttle blips. What? Part of the old Patriot track here. But I think I'm going to call it for now. I'm probably going to do some more massage into this set because it isn't perfect yet, but it's definitely getting closer. Some other things I might do is I might mess with the rear diff a little bit. Just put a little bit more diff into it. Because in theory that should help with stabilizing the car a little bit on braking. I can actually go into that corner I just spun out in the background. The car does kind of get unstable under braking, so that'll be something I work on in if I make another video, or if I just do this off video. But hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.